Hang on, I had to put my keyboard away. Let me see who's out there. I see all kinds of people. I see Julie, Tina, Tara, Charlene, Robin, welcome back, Becky, and lots of new faces. I see Cheryl out there. Hi, Cheryl. Okay, my name's Yvonne, for those of you who are new to the channel, and this is the Jelly Roll Club. And what do? We make lots of projects, and many of them include jelly rolls. So this is one that I opened that's been in my sewing room for a little bit. You get that feeling that you really don't want to open it, but I've opened it and I think I'm going to use it on this project. I was going to use it on my jacket, but I think this will look a whole lot better in this project. This is a Java Batik by Maywood Studio, if you're wondering, and it's cute little dot batik. All right, so let's get started. Let me show you what's happening tonight. And it looks like my volume is way up. If you guys can hear me, go ahead and put your name in the chat and tell me where you're from and say hello to each other. Hi, Christine. All right, I'm going to share my desktop. It's the first thing that I'm going to do so that you can see what we're going to be working on. So there it is. My favorite things is on the website. If you click on the top, you're going to find all of these things. The getting started video was the first one. Then we had the one video for the sewing machine, and then we now have the third lesson. So if you just got started, then this is going to be an easy peasy catch up for you because we're doing one per month. And we're going to be done with this series June 7th of next year. So I'm just going to be posting it. It's one of those slow sewing projects, and you can just work at your own pace. All right, so let me close that down. And so what we're working on today is this handout here. And let me just pull it up really quick. It says my favorite things. We are working on this block right here that you see on the right-hand side. I'm going to be showing you how to do the setting strips today for those of you who want to start the setting strips. Because as you can see, each one of the blocks has strips that go up and down, up and down. And so I'm going to start working on my red and my hot pink setting strips today, in addition to working on this cute little block right here. So if you notice, this one's called My Favorite Things, but it is also a block that has a hidden heart in each one of them. So I'm sneaking a heart into each one of these blocks just because I think they're cute. All right, so this is one direction. If you're using fusible web like I'm going to be doing on the wooden hoop, then this is the reverse image, and it just says reverse image. All right, so that's all. And so let me just go back to my two camera view so you can see what's happening. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. And let me just show you guys what we're going to need for today. I'm going to be using some embroidery floss, just hot pink, like a reddish pink that I have. I'm also going to be using a variety of needles. I like to use a bigger eye needle like this when I'm doing embroidery floss. It just helps me to do what I need to do. And we're going to be using 2 strands of embroidery floss, maybe 3, depends on how I like the look. I'm also going to be using this pattern right here, the reverse image. I'm going to be using a little bit of brown flannel. And the reason I'm using brown flannel is because I want this applique to be realistic. And so I want it to look like wood. And so I'm going to do it like this. I'm also going to be using a piece of fabric for the background that's 8.5 by 11 that looks like this. The last time I did this, I ended up with a block that looked like this. And then I'm going to be using some non-fusible interfacing that I'm going to cut away when I'm done with this embroidery. So let me show you what we're going to do today. Now that I'm done with all of that, let me show you what this looks like. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prepare our hoop. So I have a good old-fashioned embroidery hoop. I should have told you that. And my embroidery hoop is about the width of my paper, which is good. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of this non-woven interfacing. And it's just like a medium weight interfacing like you would use to interface like a collar or something. And I'm going to put this here, and I'm not going to hoop my fabric because I don't want to crease my fabric. I don't know how long I'm going to be working on the handwork. So when you don't know how long you're going to be working on the handwork and you don't want to crease your work, you hoop the interfacing. I'm just going to tighten that up. And I'm going to trim the excess because I don't need all of this extra. So I'm going to move it out of my way, the big giant piece, and I'm just going to trim all the way around. Doesn't even have to be really cute. It just needs to be bigger than the hoop so that it stays in there. All right. And so there she goes. I'm going to set it off to the side. Now that I have my hoop, I'm going to take and I'm going to set her down like this. And I'm going to draw my image that I'm going to be embroidering like this. So I'm just going to take a regular pen. I'm going to use a friction because I can erase it with heat. So it's called friction heat erasable pen. And then I'm just going to mark these things like this. And what I'm doing is just giving myself the image that I'm going to embroider from the other side. So when you get to the other side, you can see it. So it's reverse image. And I'm just going to kind of trace. What I'm going to be embroidering. And that's just so that I can see it through my fabric, without I actually having to mark on my fabric. And just like that, super fast. You're going to draw those little leaves. And then I'm just going to kind of go in here and draw those little hearts. And I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do the outline because these don't have to be perfect. So they're kind of these wonky little stitches that look like cross stitch. And then for the rest, instead of drawing them all in, I'm just going to draw little lines. So now that I have the outline of my heart, I'm just going to draw little lines so I know that my little hearts, my little things that fill my heart are going to be on these lines. Just like that. I traced my lines that I need. I'm going to move this off to the side. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach my fabric, which is slightly bigger than what I need. So I need 8.5 by 11. So this is my other one that's already been trimmed to 8.5 by 11. And as you can see, it's a little bit bigger than what I need, which is fine, because I'd rather have a little bit extra and trim it than not have enough and then be in trouble. So I'm just going to take and trim that off. And that'll give me something to work with. The next thing that I'm going to do is, if you remember, I was working on the wrong side of this fabric because this has this little white stuff that I'm not a super fan of, but I like this print. So I'm going to be, this is going to be the wrong side of the fabric is going to be my right side of the fabric. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to take and I'm going to glue baste my embroidery hoop. So I'm just going to take a little bit of washable glue. Don't let the grandkids play with your glue sticks. They do fun things to them. And I'm going to attach with just a little bit. It's not a lot of glue at all. This is feeling a little dry, so I may get a fresh glue stick. Keep them handy, friends. Just take that disappearing purple glue stick. Like I said, just put a little bit, not close to the hoop, not close to where you're working, and then you're going to center that. So I'm going to center it like this. Pinch the middle. And I'm going to lay that right over my heart where I want that middle to be. And I'm going to press it down. Flip it over. It's easier if you press it from this side. And now I'm ready to work. Now, if you want to take a few of those little plastic clips and clip it around, I do, but I do this because I don't want my fabric to get these big, ugly creases that don't come out. So you can just kind of clip it like this, lightly, just to kind of get that stuff out of your way. How many of you love handwork, friends? So if you're a fan of handwork, this is going to be a fun block for you. If you're semi-allergic to handwork, like hand is a 4-letter word like me, I'm not a super fan of handwork, then this is more of a struggle bus for me. How about you, friends? Josie, you're from Greystone, Ireland. Welcome. Let's see who else is out there. I see Gwen. Hi, Gwen from Milwaukee. Lots of friends out here tonight. Okay, so now that I have it, it's all prepped. I'm going to be sewing. This is the back side. I'm going to be doing my embroidery. And so just like that, I have not marked on my fabric, so I won't have ugly lines or things that I have to erase. And I've got my design. And so if you've never embroidered like this, I like embroidering from the back. And plus, it won't pucker. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do this little lazy daisy stitch or a chain stitch. And let me show you what that looks like. So you're going to pull about 18 inches of embroidery floss. So you just kind of lay it on your thing, and this is about 18 inches. Working with more than that, it gets to be a tangly mess, and I don't like messing with big tangly messes. And so I'm just going to take, and I'm going to separate that, and I think I'm probably going to do 3 strands. For those of you who are embroiderers, I don't know. What do you guys think, 2 or 3? I think we're going to do 2. And so you just untangle that, and hopefully it doesn't get too messy. And there's 1 strand of 2. Straighten out your other stuff so it's not a big tangly mess. And when I'm embroidering, I don't know why, but I feel like I have all thumbs. I get really clumsy when I embroider. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, that's how I feel. So this one is not super sharp. So I'm going to get one that's sharper. So this one is more like cross stitch, because this is like an assortment of needles. And so let's try this one. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh, it went right in. So 2 is a good choice. All right. So I'm going to take and I'm going to make a knot, a quilter's knot, by just bringing the end inside, pinching it with my finger and rolling it 3 times. And then pushing the needle through that knot, pinching it with my fingers, and letting it go to the bottom. And so I just make a little knot. Now, some people don't do that when they embroider, but I like doing that. All right. So now that I've got that, I'm going to bring it from the other side. And so now I'm just going to come here, and I'm going to hold it close to me, and I'm going to make a little chain stitch. It's a little stitch that looks like that. And I'm going to come in where I left off. And I'm going to come in and go like this. So you can see it from the other side if you want. But I'm going to go like this, like a loop, right? I've done it so much I don't even need to. And then in that loop, I'm going to hold it with my finger. I'm going to come up to the other side, like this. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to make a little loop, like this. And so it creates like this little chain effect. You go backwards, you come up, and then you kind of wrap that around there. Now, if you're working with, like me, and you're looking through the bottom, one of the things that I can do is I can set up a light underneath. And so I have like this little Mickey Mouse light that I like to use, and I just turn it on. Looks like this, like one of those selfie lights. And I stick it underneath my work like this, and I can see where I'm going. And so I use this little tiny light that I got, and you can travel with this and you can do your handwork. And so I can look down here and see where I'm at. And I can do another one of those little loop-de-loops. Come in. Come from the back. Loop that around and pull. Now, handwork, like I said, is not one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, but I don't mind doing it simply because I like the look that it provides. And so I'm going to go right here where that little chain closes. It's like, it looks like a little chain link fence, a little chain. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to come out about 1/4 of an inch each time. And I'm going to wrap that little loop around it, just like that, in the middle. And I'm going to pull. And now that's how I'm going to make the entire thing. So I'm going to do the whole thing. If you've never embroidered, you're going to want to watch a couple of tutorials on hand embroidery. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can just skip this block and do something else, because that's your other option. This is your quilt, so if you don't want to do this block because it involves too much handwork, then you can decide whether or not you love it. Oops, look at that. See what I did? I got another string tangled in there because I was busy looking at my camera instead of looking at my work. So this works a lot better when you're actually looking at your work and not your cameras. So the beauty of this is that you can just take a needle and back it up like this, and out it comes. So you can just untangle it if you ever get a big tangly mess like I just did. You can just undo it. Like I said, anytime I do embroidery work, I feel like I've got a bunch of thumbs. So now that I got the other thing out of the way, I'm going to pull it back. You just untangle it, just like I did. And then bring it back through the middle. And there it goes. And then it's not so painful. But handwork is very, very relaxing, very calming. So this is how I'm going to do the entire thing. I'm not going to have you watch me all night because that's no fun to watch somebody fumble with embroidery floss. I'll embroider in my spare time. So I'll save you the headaches. But anyway, this is how I'm going to work it. I'm going to embroider this. In the meantime, I'm also going to do the little heart. In the meantime, I'm going to have to do my hoop, my wooden hoop. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to embroider this by using the method where I use starch and I sew. So let me unclip all of this. Let me just pull that off. And that'll stay on because I've basted it to the back. I don't need the interfacing everywhere. I just need the interfacing where I'm going to be doing embroidery just to keep it smooth. Make sure my glue attaches this stuff. See how it's purple? Okay. It dries clear, and then it's not in the way. All right. So I'm going to flip this over to this side because this is where I'm going to be working. And I'm going to take this, and I need to draw the little embroidery hoop on here. So I could do this two ways. I could use fusible, or I could use the method where I just starch the heck out of it and then sew it down. But I think I'm going to use fusible because it'll give me more accuracy. So for this little guy, I'm just going to take my image, which is reversed for fusible, and then I'm going to draw. I usually draw in pencil. I'm not going to draw this entire line because I don't necessarily need that. I could do that, but I'm just going to outline my little shape with a satin stitch, and I'm not going to be using 2 pieces of fabric because that would just make it incredibly thick. So instead, I'm going to use this little Sharpie looking thing that I have in my sewing room, and I'm just going to line it up so I'm not wasting fusible. That's one of the things I don't like, is wasting my supplies. Don't need a light box with this because it is so easy to trace. And then you're just going to go all the way out like this. And then this comes like this. If you want to draw that line, you can. Or you can just do it like this, like a dashed line, to let you know where to cut. So we're going to be cutting that middle out. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab paper scissors, not our nice applique scissors, to trim this around. All right, for my quilty friends that are out there that love to do applique, do you do handwork or do you do like fusible? Tell me which is your favorite. I see some people love handwork, other people do not. So you tell me which is your favorite. All right, just give me a second. Plug in my iron here. For whatever reason, I did not plug in my iron. All right, so my iron is all plugged in now. And we are going to be pressing this down. So it should only take about 30 seconds for this iron to warm up. All right. Now, while the iron is warming up, I'm going to go ahead and trim this middle out of the way. The live, oh, great question. So Priscilla wants to know when we're going to be doing the jacket coat broadcast. That's next Sunday. And I've already made a sample coat. I made one for my granddaughter, because the coat you see in the image is a very, very, very old coat from the 1980s. Here. All right. I'm just going to take my seam ripper, because when you have a circle to cut out and you need to get started, a seam ripper is a great tool for this. Now let me just trim that out. All right. I just heard the clicky sound the iron makes when it's hot. So I'm going to move all these things out of the way. Do you ever get in your sewing room and just get tangled with all the things you've pulled out to work on? All right. So now that I have it, we're going to press the back of this flannel. Very furry little flannel. And it just gave me the impression that it looked like wood, so that's why I picked that. This flannel has been washed before, so whenever I mix flannels and cottons, I always wash my flannels because flannels do shrink quite a bit. All right. Christine is like me. All machine as much as possible. I agree with you, Christine. I'm in the same boat. I prefer machine work whenever possible. And fusible is my second favorite method for applique. My first is the interfacing method. All right. I'm just going to take and trim this out like this. And look at how quickly this is going. Now, if you noticed on the pattern, there's a second little embroidery hoop. Like I said, if you don't want to include the embroidery hoop, don't do it. Substitute it for something else of your choice. And that one is more simple. There's less fuss to that one. All right, so this one is going to be like this. And so I'm going to chuck the rest. And it's looking like this, the little ends on it. This one is kind of a thin embroidery hoop, so I'm just going to come on the inside. And I'm going to try to keep it kind of consistent thickness, like an embroidery hoop, nothing super fancy. And then it's looking like this. All right. So now there's my embroidery hoop. I can go ahead if I want to. I can use a light box, which I need to. And I'm going to determine, did the battery finally die? Oh well, this little friend needs to be back on its charger. So I'll have to charge that later. But this will just get mounted here. And I'm going to not press it down right now because what I don't want is for you guys to watch my design disappear. And so my little hoop will go like this. I'm going to fuse this down. Then I'm going to take the little wavy line that's all the way around and I'm just going to do a satin stitch. And so what I will do is I will do a video short just to kind of do a time lapse so you guys can see that happen. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me forever. And so that's what I'm going to do with this one. And so I just have to make sure I have this all the correct direction. So I will do a time lapse for that one. But in the meantime, one of the things that I do want to show you today is how to start finishing these little blocks. So I'm going to take the guy that we did last time, and I've just done straight stitch around him if you notice. And I'm going to show you how to build the little portion of the block, and let me share my desktop, that you guys are going to need for that. And so if you look at the handout, see, let me pull it up from the project page. Let me grab the handout so you guys can see it again, and I'm going to put it on my desktop. All right. So in the handout, you can see that there's this border right there, and it says 1 30-inch by 2-inch jelly roll piece. So I'm going to take for that particular piece, this one gets a red one because it goes right there in my quilt. I might put it kind of here in the middle because I like how this one looks, so I'm probably going to do a yellow for this sewing machine. So where this big button is, I'm going to substitute it for the aqua sewing machine. I'm going to swap places, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to build that. All right, so I've got this aqua block, and I'm going to pull one of my yellows out of my stash. I think I'm going to do this more muted yellow rather than this like orangey yellow. So this is going to be this, maybe this medium one. I don't know, what do you guys think? Soft yellow or medium yellow? I'm going to go for the soft yellow. All right, so for this particular sashing, I'm going to need 1 30-inch piece. This is width of fabric, so it's 44. And then this needs to be trimmed down to 2 inches. I'm going to trim it down to 2 inches. I'm also going to need some background, so that's why I have this big piece of background. And my background is also going to be 2 inches. And so I just need to move this out of the way, and I'm going to trim that up. And I just use a jelly roll ruler. I don't know if you have one of these, but these are like a jelly roll ruler, and that's super helpful when doing this kind of stuff. All right, this is ripped, as you can see, to help me find the straight of grain on my fabric. So I'm just going to start there, and I'm going to trim that off. So I'm going to grab my rotary cutter here. Just going to come along that edge and clean that up. And pull that up like that. Now I need 2-inch strips. I'm going to flip this over. I do not fold my fabric more than 2 or 3 thick because it gets very inaccurate when you start doing that. So when I need 2-inch strips, I just use this ruler and I line it up on the 2 and then I slide it along the edge. Just make sure that this is even down here at the bottom. And then when you start cutting, just carefully come across like this and come all the way. And I'm gonna grab 2 of these. I'm gonna show you how to finish these little blocks. And these are gonna look so, so cute. How many of you have already started this series? I need 2. Which blocks have you guys worked on already? All right. The needle on my sewing machine block, it is literally just this. I drew the line and then I stitched it with the single stitch. I didn't even embroider it. That's all I did. And so they're all going to have a little heart. So now that I have 2 strips, I'm going to take my jelly roll strip and I'm going to cut all those little pinked edges off. So we know this is 2.5, so I'm going to start on one side and just kind of shave all those pinked edges off like this. And this is easier to sew with anyway without those pinked edges. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to line it up on the number 2 on my ruler. And I'm going to do the same thing. And this little piece, I'm going to have to throw it away. There's not enough to do anything with. So, all right. So now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink this screen. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 piece to each side like this. So I'm going to take this side right here and I'm going to add 1 piece of border and 1 piece of sashing together. I'm going to take this and I'm going to add 2 pieces like this. And I'm going to make this even. So this is going to be 11 inches by 2 inches. And so I need that piece right there. Okay. I'm also going to need a 2-inch square. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that because I'm going to be making something that looks like a little 4 patch for the bottom. I'm going to trim the selvages off. And I need 3 of these little yellows. So I'm just going to go like this and just do 3. You could probably save yourself some time and just do 2, but I'm going to trim 3 for now, and we'll call it a day. So I'm going to trim 3. Now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and this is where we get to test out the new camera. So one of the things I did, friends, is I took an old cell phone that I had, and I downloaded software, and can you guys see that? Isn't this more clear than it used to be? All right. So I'm going to take and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. Let's pull that thread back. Always grab your tail, people, if you're a newbie, because you don't get bird's nest that way. All right, and then I'm just going to sew all the way down that strip. Whatever pieces you have left from this quilt, you can use them in your jacket next week. So we're just going to go to town here. Keep that 1/4 inch consistent. And then when I get down here to the bottom, I'm just going to trim it off. I've got that little piece. I am sewing with these pieces cut on the straight of grain, the background piece, because I like it that way. All right, so now that I have this, I can use a little leader or ender or any, it doesn't matter, a little piece of something to stick under my needle, and that way I don't have to break my thread. So I'm just going to stick that under there. That's what you save the little scraps for. All right, what do you guys think of the new camera? It's very, very clear. I think it's so much better than what I used to have. So if you guys can see, I have an old cell phone and I downloaded special software, and now you guys can see my camera as clearly as you can see me, and I think that's great. So it's so much better, and this is not so bad. So I can trim this up, and I can fix the exposure on that one. So I can fix the focus. Yeah, there you go. All right, so this one's not too bad. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to take and I'm just going to finger press it open. And I'm going to press towards the dark, which in this case is the yellow. Just take it and run your finger all the way down. Some people are really obsessive about setting their seams. That's okay. It's not necessary though, because in this quilting club, we do not care if you set your seams or not. It's not required. You can do it if you want to, but you don't have to. Setting your seams is the way to do it because it shrinks that up. But you can also just press it. There we go. So if you notice, there's very little distortion because this is straight of grain. I'm going to reduce the exposure so you can see better. So I'm going to reduce the exposure. There we go. You can see this straight of grain makes this have very little wobbles. It's really, really straight, and I like that. All right, so now we're going to attach the white side to this, and I need it to be 11. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim. I'm going to lay it down right here. You don't even need to get fussy. And I'm just going to literally trim that off. I'm going to grab my scissors. And just trim it off, and I'm going to walk it over to the sewing machine again, and I'm going to sew that piece. So this is going to be cute. Then it's going to end up with one of the stripes on this side. All right, so there we go. The clear sewing machine. So happy about that. It's the little stuff in life, people. I had a webcam and it was fuzzy. And not only was it fuzzy, but it was causing me problems because it would cause my computer to freeze and sometimes even crash. So for whatever reason, it wasn't working. And so I was trying to figure out how to hook up a bunch of different cameras to one computer, and I was having a challenge. But I figured it out, and the answer was in my handy-dandy old cell phone. So now you guys can see what I'm doing, and if I get a different attachment, I think you guys will be able to see it from this side, which will make it easier for you guys to follow along, especially when I'm doing detail work. And so we're going to get into that later. But when I do the jacket, this is going to help. So next week when I'm doing the jacket, I'm going to be setting up like a big table so you guys can have a wide angle view of what I'm doing. And that will make your life easier and mine too. All right, so let's see what we got now. So now that I've got this edge, I'm just going to press it. And I'm going to bring it this way. Now I could have done, if you notice, I put the dots up, and so it gives it a little bit of contrast, and I'm going to do it like this. Now we're going to need one piece on this side, but I'm not going to do that just yet. And then I'm also going to do this piece right here. So it's going to have a piece that stops right there. right? Because we're going to want to put a little forepatch in here that fills in these little holes. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I do that little forepatch. So this right here needs to be 8.5. I'm pretty sure that's the way I had it. So let me measure that. And I'm going to trim that piece to match. Just going to take it, and actually that's a little bit wider. It's 9. And so I'm going to have to sliver trim that, but that's okay. I guess always, note to self, always double check your blocks. And that is where I have the extra, so that's fine. I always leave a little extra. So I'm going to trim this out. Unless I want to make them all bigger, I could do that too. It's my quilt. I'm the boss of this quilt, so if I want to make it bigger, I'll just make it bigger. All right. So I'm going to sliver trim about a 1/2 inch off of there. And that should do what I need. There we go. And that is correct because that's the correct amount on either side of that. All right. Always double check your measurements. Measure twice, cut once, right? There we go. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it so that it has a little forepatch that matches. So I'm going to need 4 little pieces. I need a little white one in the corner that goes like this. A little yellow one. I need another little yellow piece over here. And then I need a little yellow baby in the center. Just like this. I'm also going to need, let me just double check. Always double check yourself, people, before you start cutting everything. So like this, I need a white one in the middle. Because this is going to be here, this is going to be here. And then I'm going to put a white piece right there. And so making sure that I have what I need is important. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew a white strip here, sew a white strip to this one, and get this little convoluted thing finished up. This is what happens when you use design software. I get these ideas in my brain of how I want my things to look, and then I draw them in the design software, but a lot of times it doesn't always give you perfect measurements, and I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. And then we're just going to wing it. And so here we are. I have that. I'm going to trim that off because I need to sew that on there. Save that scrap. And I'm going to go ahead and attach a white piece here, a white piece to that. So are you guys visualizing this craziness? I guess I could have strip pieced the whole thing, but here we are. All right, so now I'm going to sew white on this side, white on this side, and I'm going to do this little thing over here in the corner. And then I'm going to get to where I want it. All right, so let's go to the machine. And if you need me to zoom out, I can zoom out like this. You guys can see the machine better now. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and attach this piece to the outside. And every time I sew these, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching these pieces. But I'm going to pre-cut them next time. I just had too much fun this weekend. I went to the Festival of the Horse with my grandkids, and I was working on the sample jacket. And so next thing you know, I was behind, but that's okay. I'm sure you guys have taken a day to play hooky before instead of doing your work, and so that's what I did. I just took a day to play with the grandkids instead of cutting out fabric, but that's okay. I had not seen them in a while since school started. All right, so there we go. Last bit here. If your fabric is straight of grain, you can do this, but if your fabric is not straight of grain, doing what I'm doing right now can cause wobbles. So this is my warning to you guys out there in sewing land. If you're doing what I'm doing and just kind of eyeballing it, it works better if your fabrics are straight of grain, because if they're not, you're going to make a mess. All right, so let's go ahead and pull that. Turn it around. And get this out of the way. Yay! All right, so let me see what I've got at this point. All right, so let's get all this out of the way. So now that we have this, I'm going to press towards the yellow. That's my dark. And just run your finger down that line right there and look at how nice it makes it look. It also makes it kind of three-dimensional when you press towards a sashing like that, a colored sashing versus the background. All right. And now this one, same thing. Just going to take my finger and run it down that seam like this. And then it makes it lay really, really flat when you press it. All right, so now that I have this, I need that intersection in the corner. I'm missing this piece. And that's where I have all these little squares. So I need a white piece there. I need a white piece there. Actually like a little 9 patch. I need that there. I need one more little piece. Oh, I'll be able to use this. Save myself some sewing. Oh yeah, I'm going to use this instead. Always save yourself some extra sewing, friends. This piece right here is going to be my salvation. You ever have those moments in the sewing room, you're like, this is it, this is it. So flip it to the 2-inch mark. Double check your lines every time. Now I will have less leftovers. That's perfect. And now, yay, this is going to go there. This is going to go there. This is going to go here at the bottom. This is going to go in the middle. This is going to go over there. So it's going to be like a little 9 patch. This is going to go in this section, and then this is going to go there. So now I just need to put this little, it looks like a cross together. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put all these things together. So I'm going to start by just adding this on there, flipping this over and assembly line sewing these little bits. Anytime that I can assembly line sew, I do. So I've got 3 little bits to assembly line sew. This one's going to be just fine the way it is. And I'll be back. All right, there she goes. There we go. When you're sewing little bitty pieces, make sure that you are using a nice accurate 1/4-inch seam and that your stuff is not wobbling everywhere, because that can be a pain. Mistakes show up really quick when you have tiny pieces. So the tinier the piece, the less forgiving it is. So that's why I tend to stick with jelly roll as my smallest piece. All right. There we have it. And it looks like it's almost done. All right, so what color is your sewing machine, friends, that you guys put together? And now that I have this one, I'm going to flip the seam this way because I want it to nest. So this is going to have the seams flipped to the outside because that will sew there. And then this will go, the seam flipped to one side. So always nest your seams whenever possible. And then this one is going to have its seam going to the outside. So now I'm going to put this little 4-patch together, then attach this one on its side, and then the entire little 9-patch will get put together. There we go. Always put your little finger and nest that, so just check it with your fingers. And once it lays perfectly flat, then you know you've nested. Nesting is my favorite thing. My favorite TV quilter from the 1980s and 90s was Eleanor Burns, and she used to say, "Don't wrestle, nestle." And so that's my motto. I don't like to wrestle with my fabric. All right, pinch it with your fingers. Put it over here. That one also goes flipped to the outside. A, to nest it, B, so that it'll nest better with this piece over here. And when you're nesting, you're just moving this over so that it flips. And then you're pinching it into place with your fingers like this. And then you take it to the machine, and that's where you sew it. I don't know about you guys, but nesting is my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Who remembers watching Eleanor Burns? Way back in the day. If you have not watched Eleanor Burns, you should go watch some of her old episodes. They're great for beginners. Super good. All right. Look at that. We're almost there. Almost there, friends. Now we have this. This gets flipped over. We're going to sew this down. And then we're going to put this whole piece on there and sew it across. So let me go to the machine. And there we go. I think what I'm going to do, since now I have my first sample block for this done, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and make the little 9 patches for all the blocks I'm going to include, and that'll save me time down the road. So I think I'm going to take a day and literally just make the little 9 patches that go in the corner and have them in a little stack, and that'll save me some time. So I'm going to count all the blocks, and then I'm just going to make these little 9-patch crosses. All right, so I'm just going to go like this. And I'm going to lay it down, because this will now get attached to here. And when I press it, all those crazy seams will get fixed. Right now, those seams look very crazy. Very crazy seams. All right. There we go. It's nesting, though. Looks good. And that eased the excess out of the way. You ever have a piece that's a tiny bit bigger than the other? Put the bigger piece on the bottom, and it's called easing the piece. And look, that causes those to match perfectly. So when you ease that piece into place, it gives you that result. Now I'm going to press it. And I'm going to take the entire thing now, flip it on its side, I'm gonna have to clean up those seams so they have to, yeah, they're flipping. You just take your finger while it's warm, and you go like this, and then you can press that. Because what I want for those seams to do is lay as flat as possible. Because especially if you're long arming, I long arm my own stuff. When those seams are not nested and they're too thick, then your needle can break. You can hear a little thumping sound as it goes across a big seam, and that's never a happy thing. Oh, yay, Christine, you used to watch her too? Yeah, she is funny in person. She started me on this journey of being addicted to jelly rolls because she had a book called Still Stripping After 25 Years, and I became a stripper too. And so now I love strip piecing all of my things as much as possible. All right, so now we have this. We're going to start on the end that needs to be matched first. In those intersections as much as you can. It'll help you match. And then bring it over here. Slow it down, pull the pin. And then look what happens over here. These ends just match because everything is an exact 1/4 inch. So if your stuff is accurate, so this has a 1/4 inch foot that's extremely accurate. It's a scant 1/4 inch. Then I know all my pieces fit together. Now each machine is different. So you just have to learn where your machine works best. Mine works really well when I line it up along the edge of this foot, and there's a guide right here, and that's a scant 1/4. Okay, so it looks like this block is ready to go. And so this one is my first finished block. I'm going to press this little guy right here. Ooh, 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 do you see that? That's off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to seam rip that baby and make sure it matches. And I will give it a press, but I'm definitely going to seam rip this and fix that little seam. Not doing that today though, because it is already 6:57 and some of you guys have to go to bed, but just know that I'm going to fix that because I don't like how that looks. And so I'm going to come in here, and there's a little bit of excess that I'm going to ease that direction, and I'm going to fix that. So newbies, never fear if your stuff doesn't match. You can fix it. So before I do anything else, I'm going to seam rip this section and make sure that it fits exactly where it fits. And this, my friends, is the block. It looks like this, and all of your blocks are going to have this little border that's going to go in different directions. Now, if you don't want to do that and you want to do traditional sashing, you can, but I just think that this looks more interesting. And if you guys are interested in Krabby Patty, there's a few more months left on her, and I'm also working on a hexagon jelly roll strip. That one's going to be a tree skirt for my little tree. So if you're interested in working on all the stuff that I'm working on, this is it. Let me show you what it looks like. It looks like this. And she is finished, my friends. Like I said, I'm just going to clean her up, press her up, and then she's ready to go up on the design wall. So block 1 is done. Block 2 is going to be done. She's a lot of work. All right, that's it. I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you next Sunday for the jacket. We're going to start the quilted jacket. And so if you need a list of supplies, go ahead and go to my website. I have put something there for you guys. So let me show you where it's at. So on my website, let me share my desktop. You go to my website and you click on it. There is a whole, should be repurposed quilts. It looks like this. And repurposed quilts has the lesson guide, and then it says how to collect your blocks, and I'm getting ready to put a link to a handout. So I'm going to work on that tonight that has a supply list. So you'll see something that says supply list at the bottom of this section here. And so when you see that, you're going to go in there and grab it. That is September the 14th. All right, friends, that is all for now. I will see you guys next Sunday so that we can start working on our jackets. I appreciate you. Please share this video with your friends who are interested in quilting. I will show the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's just how it goes. All right, everybody. I'm super excited. This quilt is going to be a lot of fun. If you don't want to make a big one, you can just make a wall hanging for your sewing room. But I think this is going to turn out really, really nice. All right, everybody, you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye-bye.